We'll be looking at how Kenya's ailing tourism industry is weathering or not the turbulent times that have beset the industry since 2012. It has been in decline ever since then. We'll be looking at what exactly the problems are, how it can be sorted out, and the perception problems that Kenya needs to overcome. Welcome to Global Business Africa. Here's what's in the pipeline. In what some have termed as a desperate measure, Zimbabwean tax authorities are now targeting churches. And we'll have the story of a savvy startup in South Africa. It's giving back to society and rewarding behavioral change. Now then, let's start in Ghana, where the International Monetary Fund says a near $1 billion bailout program with Ghana is on track. Can't say the same thing about Greece, obviously, saying the government has met almost all performance criteria. Now, this program started in April and it aims to stabilize an economy which has been absolutely battered by a combination of weak commodity prices and a wide range of fiscal problems. Now, in particular, the government is struggling to lower inflation, cut a debt-to-GDP ratio that's close to 70%, and stabilize a currency that's fallen by around 22% to the dollar since January. Now, the latest IMF review should lead to a disbursement of about $115 million or so in aid in August. The fund reckons that dollar inflows in the coming months from Eurobonds, donors, the Central Bank, the African Development Bank and the World Bank all should help to stabilize the cedi. The China Trade Week Expo opened in the Kenyan capital on the 1st of July with over 150 Chinese firms showcasing their products and services. Construction materials and consumer electronics were some of the sectors present at the exhibition. Ucho Koronko was there.
The three-day exhibition is the very first comprehensive China-focused trade event to be hosted in Kenya and the East Africa region.
The China Trade Week provides a good opportunity for the businessmen, for our two countries to negotiate their cooperation to further our friendship. As an important country in the East Africa, Kenya is the leading economic developing country and the transportation hub. Chinese government has its confidence to Kenya's bright future.
This exhibition, which is here, the coming of China for the first time in these large numbers, Gary says, around 150 people who have come not just to exhibit, because that's okay, you can bring products and show people, but also to actually take Kenyans who are interested in engaging with China in one way or the other, in trade and the skills transfer, to come here to the workshops. And also,
the event brings together Chinese companies across various industries such as construction, consumer electronics, electric vehicles, plastic molding equipment and green energy solutions. It comes at a time when trade relations between Kenya and China are at an all-time high. Bilateral trade volume between the two rose 53% to over $5 billion in 2014. In the last decade, the Asian giant has funded more than 80 development projects in Kenya, including the Standard Gauge Railway project from Mombasa to the capital, Nairobi. Other projects include the Eastern Bypass Project, the Northern Bypass Project, and the Thika Superhighway Road.
As Chamber of Commerce, we work a lot with China. We have done very many different programs with the Chinese Embassy. In fact, we are currently working on an exchange program now for Chambers of Commerce, and they will continue to train us on how to do business with China and how to improve our business here. So what we are doing today is also part and parcel of the bigger picture as Chamber of Commerce and the Chinese Embassy.
The three-day event is designed to provide Chinese companies with a unique opportunity to meet, discuss and develop trading and business partnerships with both Kenyan entrepreneurs and the region's business community across various commercial sectors.
Now, over in Zimbabwe, cash-strapped revenue authorities will now start taxing churches later this year. It's a move some have described as one powered by desperation, but a sensible option for those who think the church is now all about nothing but making money by any means possible. Farai Mokatuya has the details.
In recent years, Zimbabwe has witnessed an upsurge in the number of prophets, televangelists and men of God, many of them preaching the prosperity gospel, promising wealth to their followers. Now, the government is following those riches. The Zimbabwe Revenue Authority says it plans to start taxing the church. The umbrella body of churches agrees that what belongs to Caesar, or the taxman in this case, must be rendered to him, but argues collecting revenue from churches previously exempt because they are considered welfare organizations could open up a can of worms.
It is similarly categorized with, for example, schools, other welfare organizations that look after the needy. Children's homes, you'll end up taxing them because of the money they might be receiving, and there might be surpluses. So where do you stop in this thing?
However, with a career as a man of the cloth becoming a popular option here, there are some with different opinions.
I can understand where the government is coming from. Our churches, some of them have ceased to be churches, to be charities. If you look, for example, there's this PhD ministries who are now into property development and so forth. That's a business. And the business, the money came naturally from the tithe of the people, but it's now a corporate. So a company must be taxed.
But it could be difficult to trace every dollar.
By and large, the church is informal. I guess it is because of the publicity recently that part of the church has got. Even that publicity that has come about, if the taxman follows through, it is very informal by nature. The bulk of the church does not account back to the congregants.
But isn't that something as EFZ you should be worried about and should be doing something about?
In our code of ethics, these are things that we are now saying we must. But you know, these are things that we coerce, we encourage. We cannot legislate faith.
It's a challenge that awaits Zimbabwe's Revenue Authority, which recently conceded it's set to miss its revenue targets due to a shrinking tax base. Troubled souls often get redeemed inside those hallowed walls. Now the Zimbabwean taxman, pressed for cash and running out of options, may soon find salvation there too. Farai Mwakutuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
And incidentally, that's a debate you'll also find right here in Kenya, albeit on a very different perspective as well. Now, let's make a quick run through the markets here for you, see exactly what the numbers look like across the board. The Kenyan market's essentially in the red, down by almost a full percentage point in trading today on the NSE 20. Of course, if you tally the losses so far in market cap, it's a fairly big number, and a big chunk of that is attributable directly to the reintroduction of capital gains tax and the dispute that emerged between the revenue authorities here and stockbrokers. Coming up next, the Greek Prime Minister is offering new concessions to the country's creditors ahead of a July 5 referendum. And we'll be telling you why poor coffee prices are compelling farmers in Uganda to drop the crop and switch to cocoa. Africa is on the move. It's home to 7 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies. We help you make sense of the fast-changing African business landscape. We take you where the business is happening. Global Business, weekdays at this time on CCTV Africa.
Effects of the austerity measures are evident and were expected. Egyptians, however, seem to be patient about it. But El-Sisi told government he wants to control the prices promptly before people's patience runs out.
Welcome back. Let's start the second part of this bulletin in Kenya, where the unrelenting contraction of the tourism sector shows absolutely no signs of slowing down, at least not if the first quarter GDP data we got today is anything to go by. On a year-on-year basis, Kenya's tourism sector shrunk by 4.6% in 2013 and by over 17% last year. That's an abysmal number. Now, even though the rest of the economy grew by 4.7%, as reported in the last hour, tourism was the one sector that shrunk. First quarter output was at the lowest level in the last 6 years. after a string of terror attacks in the country and a travel advisory by the UK. Both hotel occupancy rates and revenues have fallen. Job losses in the sector are estimated to be in the tens of thousands. Now let's get a better perspective and an understanding of Kenya's tourism sector. Mohamed Hersi is the CEO of Heritage Hotels, is with me on the phone line from Mombasa. Mr. Hersi, thank you for your time. What do you make of the latest data indicating a continued contraction in the tourism sector? Is this an accurate picture of what's really happening, or is the damage a lot worse?
Thanks, Rama. If anything, actually, it is actually worse, if you ask me. So we are not surprised by the drop for 2014, which was building on to from 2013. We realized that 2014 is when the advisory, the non-essential, actually started. That was in April. So it's the longest ever we ever had. That is 14 good months of non-essential travel, which basically equates to people not able to travel in the UK simply because they were insurance. Also, the High Commissioner much later tried to clarify that the insurance companies in the UK should not have denied anyone insurance. But the bottom line is that they were simply unable to get insurance, and a good number of people who have been coming from the UK are not able to make it. Now you will notice that, or rather from the records, half of the numbers coming to Kenya are actually from Britain, and many of them will combine beach with safari. Now, the fact that they're not able to come to Mombasa meant that they're also not able to do safari. So we lost on both fronts. So those figures are quite accurate, and it will take a long time before we pick up and go back to where we were before.
Indeed. I know there was a wave of pay cuts and layoffs at the coast last year. You, of course, did also take a pay cut in the interest of maintaining the financial health of Heritage Hotels. Give us a sense of what business is like at the coast right now.
Business is picking up, but very slowly. What is happening is that now we are engaging the promotion gear, in the sense that Kenya Tourism Board, we have the PR arm, the trade team from the UK, and private sector players. We are all putting together all we can. We are also working with the county government so that we can engage now to promote the destination. Initially, it will have been a waste of time and very difficult for you to start any promotions if people are not able to travel to Kenya coast, especially when the non-essential travel was extended all the way from Lamu to Diani, which basically meant that the whole of Watamu, the whole of Malindi, Mombasa, including the airport, was all put on that particular zone. So what is happening right now is that we have the repeat clientele. We normally come in to Mombasa for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. That's real tourism for us. And those numbers are coming in slowly, but that will take time. Remember, tourism is not a product, it's not like manufacturing where you put things on the shelf and you open your shop and people will come and buy them. You're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with people who have to plan, you're dealing with people who have to schedule, you have to take leave. There are a lot of factors, and people normally plan 18 months in advance, so they can just change overnight because now Kenya is open. But we have those diehard, especially British visitors who've been coming to Kenya every year, twice or thrice, and we look forward to having that. Then we also have the German market, who will never abandon us. They've always been with us, and they'll also be coming back anytime from July 15th. In fact, we have Condor Airlines that have resumed flights. They've now given us the first flight coming in from Munich. We have the one from Frankfurt, and we have this from Frankfurt and Munich, which is also going to keep the Kenya first. Now, all that put together, that we really like. Then from Malindi, the Italian market is also coming back anytime from July 15th. So at least things are looking up, and we still need to be careful that the threat of insecurity is there, so we need to be alert.
All right, we'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for your input. That's been Mohamed Hersi on the phone line from Mombasa. He's the CEO of Heritage Hotels at the Kenyan coastline. Now, let's move on to Cameroon. An increasing number of citizens over there are now burning plastic waste as a cheaper alternative to energy supply compared to kerosene. Now, the thing is, it does save them money, but it has an alternate cost, a very heavy toll on their health and the environment.
Alvine doesn't use kerosene anymore. Instead, she's using plastic waste to fuel her fire. Here in Cameroon, the waste is called alam alam and comes straight from the local shoe factories. The fuel is cheap and abundant.
Oil costs 500 FCFA per litre compared to alum, that costs 25, and you can find it everywhere, in every corner of the market.
This financial saving comes at a considerable cost, however. The new fuel comes with health concerns, which is putting lives at risk, especially when burnt in small confined spaces.
The combustion is very slow and generates carbon dioxide, which is a light, odorless gas. Instead of the oxygen, carbon dioxide attaches itself to the hemoglobin, and if you're in a small space, you could die from asphyxia.
It's estimated more than half of Cameroon's population is not connected to the electricity grid. In rural areas, that number falls to 14%. The government is working to improve access to the grid as part of its 2035 vision strategy for growth and employment. However, in the meantime, those not connected must look for alternatives.
I came here on vacation 2 weeks ago and started selling alum. I sell at least 2 bags a day. In one day, I make 1,500 to 2,000 francs sometimes.
Despite the health risks, there is strong demand from buyers, and the fuel has become an easy and valuable source of income for the young men who sell it at the market. Andrew Thompson, CCTV.
Now, if you've been following coffee future prices, you'll know they've fallen steeply since October last year. And that, of course, has had a ripple effect down the supply chain. Farmers, to put it mildly, are not very happy. Uganda is Africa's largest producer of Robusta coffee, and farmers over there are responding to these declining prices by ripping out their coffee and replacing it with cocoa, whose prices have rallied fairly strongly since the end of March. As Andrew Thompson reports, cocoa prices are a very strong attraction.
In a small village in Mbali, Uganda, Johab Jonadab makes his way through his farm, inspecting his cocoa plantation. He is one of many farmers in Uganda who are making a transition from coffee to cocoa production. Despite Uganda leading Africa in Robusta coffee production and lagging behind other cocoa producers such as Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, the shift of focus is largely due to falling global prices in coffee.
Coffee now is like a 2,500 Uganda shilling. Cocoa is 6,000 to 7,000 shillings, which means like 3 times a kilo. And remember that per a tree of cocoa, you are harvesting 7, which means 1 tree you can gain more money per 1 kilo per times the 7 kilograms. That is a lot for you.
Cocoa beans fetch between $2,000 and $2,800 per tonne on the international market. Production of the crop is done on a small scale in Uganda since the large acreage is mainly used for coffee production. Cocoa, however, is growing in popularity in the country as it takes less labour processing the beans. Harvested coffee beans, on the other hand, are more expensive to process. They are taken through a pulping machine, dehusked, roasted, grounded, then finally packaged.
The pricing of coffee is no longer favourable to the farmer. Those are the main issues that are motivating farmers to move away from coffee growing to venture into cocoa growing.
Uganda's coffee export volumes have been diminishing due to reduced production, unpredictable weather and corruption, which leads to some of the yield being smuggled to neighbouring countries.
Primary reason for going into any crop growing or production, including coffee, is the benefit they are likely to get in terms of either food security, which is their primary concern, or income generation, as I explained to you. So if there is a situation that will reduce their benefit from growing coffee, and when they compare with other alternatives, and they find that that alternative may be better than coffee, it is rational that they move into that alternative.
Uganda is Africa's second largest coffee producer after Ethiopia, the 8th largest in the world and the 4th largest producer of Robusta coffee. However, the country's export volumes are expected to remain flat this year, as maturing trees planted over the past 5 years experience an anticipated decline in production as a result of the coffee twig borer pest. Andrew Thompson, CCTV.
The Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras has offered new concessions to the country's creditors. In a letter, he said he was prepared to accept most of the conditions on the table before talks collapsed, and he called a referendum on the 5th of July. However, in a speech on Greek television, he once again, rather paradoxically, urged a no vote in Sunday's poll. In his address, Mr. Tsipras thanked Greeks for their calm in the face of bank closures and said their salaries and pensions would, quote, not be lost. He has denied that he had a secret plan to take Greece out of the euro altogether. European markets surged in the news that Greece might be willing to accept a deal, but the German Chancellor Angela Merkel and her officials are, of course, a lot more cautious. She said no new bailout talks will be possible before Greece holds the referendum later on Sunday. Jack Barton's live at the EU Commission headquarters in Brussels tonight with more details on this developing story. Jack, Syriza and Mr. Tsipras were elected with an anti-austerity mandate. So how did the Greek Prime Minister end up accepting some of the creditors' terms in this latest letter?
Well, there's a few reasons why he might have accepted it. Of course, we can't see inside Mr. Tsipras's mind, but even though there is relative calm in Greece at the moment, tension is building, especially since capital controls were introduced on the banks. There is concern not just in Greece but also around the rest of the bloc. Analysts I've spoken to today about growing social unrest in Greece and the situation getting out of hand. But probably the biggest game changer is the fact that the creditors have essentially called Greece's bluff. The past bailout, Greece's second bailout, expired last night, and the creditors have made it clear that Greece won't get any more money now. So they're not going to throw, in their view, good money after bad. Also, the European Central Bank, it can give a little bit more emergency funding if it wants, but it's under no obligation to do so anymore, so they can simply turn off the taps. And the Greek government will very quickly run out of money. They're almost in that situation at the moment, and that would require them to start printing another currency, the drachma. And of course, that would lead down the road to that Greek exit. So they have called Greece's bluff. That might not be the reason, but that would certainly appear to be the most logical reason behind this change of heart.
Indeed, we've covered the response from Berlin to this latest offer. But what about the EU Commission? What about the IMF? How they responded? And is any partial debt relief or debt cancellation on the table moving forward?
Well, they're taking this offer seriously. It's only a 1.5-page letter that Alexis Tsipras has sent, and it essentially says we will accept everything you've proposed so far, except we won't have tax hikes on resorts on Greek islands, and those pension reforms will come in a little bit slower. But it's only a 1.5-page document. To get serious consideration here, it really needs to be a lot thicker than that and a lot more detail. But the ministers are looking at it. They looked at it last night. They're looking at it today. But it would still have to go through the International Monetary Fund, the European Central Bank, the European Commission, be agreed on by all 19 Eurozone leaders. And even then, if there's an agreement, it would have to go through several national parliaments. So sometimes there's a perception that a document can come over to the finance ministers and they can sign off on it and go, yes, we've got a breakthrough. In reality, it doesn't work that way. Even if there's positive traction, it still takes weeks to get any sort of breakthrough. This process is only just beginning.
Indeed, we'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you for your input, Jack. That's Jack Barton, of course, keeping track of developments over in Greece. A quick run through commodity prices for you today. Earlier, of course, you did see our story about why Ugandan farmers are ditching coffee and turning to cocoa. Those numbers on your screen right now essentially tell you everything you need to know. Coffee down 200 basis points in trading today, and cocoa, on the other hand, still heading north. Now, let's move on to South Africa, where a savvy startup is giving back to society and rewarding volunteers for their work. Going the extra mile rewards ordinary people to engage them in community improvement projects by providing specific rewards. Now, one gem reward, or one gem point, if you will, is equal to R1, and they're earned by participating in Going the Extra Mile supported projects. Julie Shai has the details on Grassroots tonight.
There is one South African mobile app bringing real change to its users. GEM Project is a mobile rewards platform for volunteers that pays back members who give up their time to do something good for their community.
It's also a digital tool for social mobilization. Essentially, users will go and volunteer their time at orphanages, soup kitchens, community initiatives, and by doing that they earn gems. So 1 gem is equivalent to R1, and on our platform they can use those gems to spend on rewards such as data, airtime, electricity, movie tickets. So it's a way to get people to be proactive, but from within their own communities, and the token of appreciation kind of keeps them coming back.
GEM project started in Johannesburg, but the founders hope to roll it out to the rest of the country and to other parts of Africa, impacting on behavioral change and finding ways for the unemployed to use their time proactively.
We've put all our efforts into creating this app that makes it easy for people to volunteer. In the long term, we're hoping to turn it into a form of e-money, of mobile money, because that code hasn't been cracked in South Africa yet.
The app allows volunteers to find out where their help is needed. And today at Oliko Maths Winter School in Diepsloot Township, children are reaping the benefits.
I think for GEM to have something that connects people that need volunteers and volunteers who want to help out, I think if once it's got, once people find out, oh, I want to volunteer, oh, I can just look on GEM and find it. I think that is going to make an absolutely huge difference for, places like us.
We have a lot of people who are studying, some mechanical engineers, some actuarial scientists, and I always love when people come and share their professions or share what they're studying, because the children in this environment also need exposure to what's out there and what's out there for them, and so it's aspirational for them as well.
Oliko helps me with maths because there are a lot of things that I didn't know, such as angles, prime factorization. Now because I'm here, I'm much better at maths.
GEM is a very cool app. It's a great way to do your part for the community, and it's an easy way to be in touch with people who do that, and getting rewarded with the gems is also a great idea for having an incentive to do good for your community.
I think the function of the app is very practical because it gives ordinary people a chance to give back. It's been an amazing application in my perspective, and I'm very appreciative to the people who created it.
GEM project may have started as a savvy app, but the reality is there is no limit to what it can achieve, and it's on its way to finding solutions to South Africa's most urgent challenges.
Mobile it's not, a mobile as an additional platform. Mobile is the platform, and that's what we really got to concentrate on in South Africa. So in 5 years' time, when we've got all these rewards, and not just digital, we are planning to integrate our technology with different POS systems so that you can then spend your gems at a retailer, so that people can do good, get rewarded, and feed their families. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
This South African startup is helping society by mobilizing communities from the ground up and encouraging them to help themselves. Julie Shire, CCTV in Diepsloot, Johannesburg.
And that dive into behavioral economics wraps up this edition of Global Business Africa. As always, you value your time, your half hour invested into this program. See you in the next 23. I'm Ramanyan.